So yes, I really did move to Amsterdam, but it's not what you think. I'm not moving permanently from Zwolle, at least not just yet. I came to Amsterdam for just a month. I want to test this city for this month. And in this video, I want to talk about the reasons why I'm doing this, what was the thinking behind this decision. But I actually never been comfortable talking in public and in general filming outside, especially not in such a huge city as Amsterdam. Let's just go back inside and I'm gonna talk there. I settled in a developing area of Westport in a neighborhood called Teleport on the west of Amsterdam. This area is located near Amsterdam's Sloterdijk train station, and there are some shops and amenities popping up near the station. My apartment building is, however, located a bit further. I rented a place in a building called Makkerstoren, which is actually just opened last month, so I'm one of the first residents here. There is not much around except office buildings and old port infrastructure, but it's about 15 to 20 minutes from city center by bike, so it doesn't really matter for this experiment. But let's actually talk why am I here. For the last couple of years I've been living in Zwolle. It's a 100,000 population city in the a little bit east-north of the Netherlands, and Zwolle is a fantastic city. It's calm, it's clean. Some of the areas are very relaxing, there are nature right near your doorstep, and people are very nice there. I think it's a city great for integration because the majority of people live there are Dutch. It's incredibly safe. We have a beautiful old historical center. We have a lot of cafes, restaurants. It's just very well functioning town. Depending where you are right now, where your place in life, where you are on your journey, it can be incredible city to live in. Sometimes I think that Zwolle is a true Dutch utopia. So many people are talking about online, and it feels like an absolutely paradise. But I realize that for me personally, it may be not the best place to live. No matter how wonderful all the list of the things I told you just now, right? And no matter how great they sound on paper, the decision where to live is a very personal choice, and it's heavily dependent where you are in life and what you are looking for. There are no perfect place that suits anyone. We all know all these lists that published every year online, right? The most happiest cities, the highest quality of life. Does it mean that every person on the planet will feel happier and fulfilled and content living in Helsinki and Copenhagen, for example? I don't think so. Search for the best place to live is a very, very personal journey, and no list will help you with that. I am, in general, a very global person, right? I basically grew up with the internet. I have a lot of friends that I meet online. I have a lot of communities that I participated for a long time. They are all online. My work is primarily online. My current business is heavily dependent on the online presence. Basically, all my life I was connected to the internet, and connection to the internet may mean very high globalization. So all the friends, all the people I met, they're all over the planet. They're all from different places. But living online doesn't mean I don't like meeting people offline. I actually like that very much, and I think no matter how good we progressed with internet, and no chatting or even calls can replace actual face-to-face conversation with a person or with a group of people. That means I'm looking for people to meet offline as well, but because I guess of my globalization, I'm looking for a very cosmopolitan society, if you can say that. The place where people live from all over the world, because that's what I get used to online. I want to see it the same way in the offline meeting in the city. That's why I'm looking for a city where a lot of expats and immigrants and however you call them live. And Zwolle, on the other hand, is a very localized city. Not only means that there are not many immigrants and expats there, exists, but it's just not very common place to go if you're an expat. But it also means that the focus of people who live in Zwolle, I think it's very locally directed. There are a lot of local events and local initiatives happening in the city, and people tried and create nice local community. And I think it's working, and I think it can be really great if you want to focus on the local community. It would be very welcoming for you, but it's just not for me. That's what I'm trying to say. Second thing that I noticed is the language. And yes, I know, you have to learn Dutch to live in the Netherlands. I completely agree with that. There's no doubts there. If you want to stay in the country, you have to learn Dutch no matter where you live. I still struggle with it. I still continue learning and studying, but it's just going very slowly. But I know I end up there. But the question is not really whether you need to learn Dutch or not, but the question is which language is your language of life. And for me, no doubt, it's English. I can't imagine living in any other language except English, and I prefer it and will prefer it through my whole life, I think, to any other language, even my own native language. I don't use it as much in day-to-day life, except maybe talking with my wife, talking with my parents and my Russian-speaking friends. So it's a specialized language. I use it for a narrow specialization, talking with people who also have the same native language as me. And I think Dutch language will be quite similar to me once I learn it. Of course, it's going to be much worse in terms of level of speaking, but I think I'm going to use it for a very specialized cases. So maybe some government interactions, some Dutch people, for example, I would love to speak with them in their native language. That's going to be a narrow specialized language, same as Russian for me. But English is a language of my life. It's my language of choice. I think it's the best language in terms of usage globally, and as we established, I'm a very globally oriented person. You can speak to most of the people in the world in English, and it's just a convenient language. Most of the things I'm interested in, like technology or, I don't know, video games or movies, it all exists in English. I don't consider English as a language of UK, US, Australia and stuff like that. I consider it as a language of the world and language of the internet. My whole life consists in English. I use like even basic things like journaling and my notes, my organization stuff. I use English for everything. It's just my language of choice. And I don't think I want to live in any other language, to be honest. That's why another reason I want city where English is well fitted into society as well. And Zwolle is not city like that. It's a very Dutch-speaking city. Many people know English as everywhere in the Netherlands, but when you start speaking with them, you understand that they don't use it at all. For a couple of years, some people haven't used it because there's just no need. Everything is in Dutch. I hope this part didn't sound like I'm promoting English over Dutch. Not at all. I just think there can be a two-language society where Dutch used for some local things, for cultural things, and English can be used for more globalized things like online business, like everything online basically. So let's establish it's a language of the internet. Let's say that, not the language of the Netherlands. And finally, third thing that I wanted to talk about is the type of people I'm looking for. It's pretty straightforward. I'm a very tech oriented person. I like cutting edge technologies. I like some modern startups, online startups. I like founders. I like technical people. I also like just modern things. Doesn't matter, like modern architecture, modern design, modern society. I'm very liberal if we're talking step into political spectrum a little bit. I also must admit, but I like hipster stuff. that's my confession for this video. So I'm looking for a society that represents all of that and represents freedom and modernity and building a future, if we compose it into one sentence. I would say I also like ambition, although I'm pretty much moving towards the more calming my life, and this channel is transforming into where I speak more about calmness and intentional living. But it doesn't mean it have to be either. I think ambition and relaxation and taking your life with more intention, I think it's all can exist together. As you understand, these type of people who represent all of that I listed, they happens to be mostly gathered in bigger cities. That's just how it was through the time, in the past and in the modern times. It was always in the bigger and cosmopolitan cities. And in addition to that, I just must admit, I like having a choice. I like having variety of amenities big city could offer, and I like trying new things. I like kind of little adventuring of exploring your city, to finding something new, and basically how big city makes you a little local adventurer, I would say. And I grew up in a big city, so I think I know what I'm talking about here. And I have experience living in a small town as well in the past and right now. And I know it's really hard to find that there. So that's all the reasons and all the doubts I've been pondering while living in Zwolle in the last couple of years. I really enjoy living in Zwolle, but reflecting more and more on what I really want and where I am in life, I just realized something was always missing there. That's where I went to the quest of finding a different place to live. But after thinking about this more and more, I reflected that the decision of picking the right city or different place to live is actually a double-edged sword. This is where I want to go a little bit deep in this video, why I think that. There is a very famous saying that the quality of your life directly affected by the three main decisions you make. It's who you with, it's what you work on, and it's where you live. I think I partially agree that these three decisions are very important and directly affect your life. With the first two questions, I kinda know the answers for myself, but I always struggle with the third. I grew up in a country where I honestly never wanted to live my whole life. So I spent a lot of time trying to leave this country, but I never really was moving somewhere. I was moving from. When I moved out, I still struggle to find a place where I would say like this, yes, this is the place where I want to spend the rest of my life. So I kinda wondering ever since I left my home country. Just at some point, both my wife and I, we got tired and we decided to move somewhere smaller and calmer, and hence picked Zwolle. It's been working out great for us for a while. We kinda took a breath. We relaxed, we felt this feeling of a home, you know, when you always have the place where you're returning. But after some time, this internal relentlessness came back. Ever since, I've been wondering where else I can live in this country. I thought about different cities. I thought about Utrecht, Rotterdam, and Hofen. I think they still are on my mind. They might be able to offer everything that I've been looking for, that I said in the first part of this video. But after some point we noticed that we're visiting Amsterdam more and more, and we kinda started to like it. And we started to feel that it may be a good place to live. At some point last year we even thought to just go and move to Amsterdam. Sell our house, rent an apartment in Amsterdam and move there. But there are a few concerns of that decision. First, it's simply financial concerns, because difference between having a mortgage on a house in Zwolle and renting an apartment in Amsterdam for around 3,000 euro per month, for example, is huge. We would lose a great asset, our house, and also simply the cost of even the mortgage interest rates is much lower than renting in Amsterdam. To put it in pure numbers, I did different calculations. It would cost us additional 20 to 30,000 euro per year to simply do this move. Living in a house in Zwolle in a pure economical perspective is almost free. As the growth rate of the house, it's just higher than the interest rates. Of course, renting in Amsterdam is just pure costs. There is no advantages in that. But apart from financial perspective, second concern was just that we weren't sure if we really like it. The cost of this step is really high, and we don't even know for sure that what we get is going to be worth it. You can visit city many times and it's still completely different from living there for a long term, for years. And in addition to that, Amsterdam is quite famously known as kind of a Disneyland of the Netherlands among the people who live outside of Amsterdam, because of how many tourists are here in the city center specifically. I was really concerned that this part of the city may be going to create a not great quality of life here, especially after we spent a month in Barcelona and I realized how living among the tourists is not a great experience. You just start to hate this very quickly. But at the same time, relying on this reputation of Amsterdam among the rest of the country is very fragile thing to do, because in most of the countries I know, it's a national sport to hate the capital. It's just how it is. It's just because capital drains a lot of economic things and a lot of power inside, and the rest of the country kind of sometimes dependent on it, and people grew negative about it. So you should always take this hate towards the capital with a grain of salt. After thinking about all of that, my wife and we decided that the best decision is to do an experiment, is to just rent here a place for a month and try to feel day-to-day life as much as possible. And this is the best way to decide whether we like it here or not. So that's what we did. I nomaded so much around the world, but I never thought about doing it within my own country. But it actually can be a very pleasant experience as well, and it can help you learn about different cities within your country as well. So that's the first for us, doing it within our own country, and it's going to be an interesting experiment. Basically, for the next months, the goal is to feel the city, truly feel day-to-day life here. Listen what the city is saying, what the vibes are here, how it feels to be here personally day to day. It's going to be quite hard, I think, still, because when you're living somewhere for a month, there's still a lot of novelty effect, and it can cloud your judgment. It can quite easily to fade away when you live somewhere for a long term. But I think I'll try to deliberately feel this city and just imagine how I'm gonna be feeling here. Yeah, just see what happens. So that was the practical reason why I'm here. Another thing, that's why I mentioned that choosing another city is a double-edged sword. There's another thing that was bothering me recently. And in the last couple of years, I've been reflecting back a lot on my life. And I think if I can formulate it in one sentence, I'm not sure if I want to live in Amsterdam or just I like the idea of living in Amsterdam and it sounds cool. And there is one topic that I wanted to touch in this video the most. As humans, I think the big obstacle we face is conditioning, and we always try to imagine how our life would be if we get X. I will be finally happy if I make more money, if I get more power, if I find another job or buy a new car, or if I move to another city, my life finally be great. The reality in most of those cases, it's simply not true. And more often than not, desires actually make us less happy. And I really like the quote from Naval Ravikant that desire is a contract that we make with ourselves to be miserable until the desire is fulfilled. But do we actually feel happier when we get what we wanted? Or we simply look for another thing to chase? And if the second is true, that we basically live in the misery. That's what I'm trying to say. So the question I'm asking myself right now, is the place where I live truly matters to me, or I just relentlessly trying to fix something that have nothing to do with where I live? And I think it's worth keep asking this question over and over again, because it's how you find out about your true nature of your feeling and how you find yourself, basically. Unfortunately, for that specific question, I still don't have an answer. I'm just decided to do what I always do when I don't have an answer, to do an experiment. So that's another reason that I came here with this big question in mind. I want to just test the hypothesis I'm gonna be happier when I move to Amsterdam. So instead of wondering for the next couple of years, will it be great to live in Amsterdam? Instead, I decided to come here and just test that. Will I get tired of all the tourists? Is this city a kind of a bubble? Are people actual snobs here, or this is a cliche? Will I miss peace and quiet in Zwolle? And will I actually use any of the amenities and stuff that Amsterdam has to offer? Let's find out.